Hello so creative, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful Queen Anne neckline. You can see how beautiful the neckline is looking. It fits this corporate outfit so perfectly. So on this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to eliminate your zipper bulge as well. Let me turn my back. Let me turn my back. So when I turning my back, you can see how beautiful this cloth is looking on me. Like the zipper, there is nothing like zipper bulge. The zip is lying so flat. So after watching this tutorial, you are definitely going to say bye bye to zipper bulge. And I'm also going to teach you how to close your slits in a more professional way, like ready to wear standard. So this tutorial is badged with a lot of details. You will not want to miss this particular tutorial. So if it's something that you would like to keep watching, grab your seat and popcorn and let's get straight into it. So for this particular tutorial, this video is the part 2. So I've already uploaded the part 1 where I did all the drafting and contouring of this beautiful corporate gown. So you will like to watch that part 1 before you dive into this sewing part, so that you understand everything we are doing. So let's get straight into it. So these are all our patterns we cut out earlier. I have already transferred them to fabric, adding all my necessary allowances of half inches, and the side I added 1.5. So you watch it on the other video to understand every part. So this one I'm holding in my hand is the center front, and while this part that look like bustiers are the side, which we are going to sew into the center front. So I'm trying to place the right side of the side into the center front, pinning them down with my office pin. And after pinning, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and go and sew half an inch from the waist to the upper part, and this is how it's going to look like after I've done sewing it. So I'm gonna ahead to cut out these pieces into 2. One will serve as our main working fabric, while this other one that I just brought will serve as our lining. So I've gone ahead to sew it. Like I said earlier, you can see the outcome. So at this point now, you can go ahead and iron press your seam so that everything will look relaxing. So before you iron press, make sure you notch this part, the underbust, so that the ease allowances will just ease itself, so that when you are ironing, everything will just come together and stay in one place. So make sure you notch the underbust to differentiate it from every other part, because that underbust you are going to iron it with your tailor's ham. So after notching it, I did the same thing to the lining as well. So I'm basically going to use this lining to turn our main working fabric. So have something that you use to identify which part is the lining and which part is your main working fabric, because they look alike. This point that I'm pointing at is the part we are going to sew, the neck and the neck. Like, you know how the design of the neck looks like. So we are basically going to sew it around. So I'm going ahead to sew it, and this is the outcome. The next thing I'm going to do is to notch every part that we just sew now, in order to ease it out. And while notching, as I notch, I also trim out the excess of it. So watch closely and see what I'm doing there. So that particular part that is curvy, make sure that you notch it very well in order to ease the allowance, so that when you turn it to the right part and iron it, it will relax so perfectly well. So after notching the other side, I went ahead to notch the center front, and after which I trim every part, the excess away. I trim all the excesses away, and after trimming it, I'm heading over to my ironing table to go and iron press everything. This is what it looks like when I turn it to the right side. You can see how neat our neckline is coming out to be. So I basically went ahead to iron it. You know, Nigeria, there is no light, so I use my artificial light, and after ironing it, this is what it gave me. So make sure you iron the neck. So the next thing we are going to do is close the side. You can see I turn it to the wrong side, so I'm basically going to sew 0.25 on that 2 sides. So I've gone ahead to sew it. The next thing is to turn it over to the right side again, so that we can start joining it to the down side. So I'm basically going to notch the middle part in order to know which part is the middle. You can see how I close it into two equal halves. I also did the same thing to the down part in order to get the middle part so that we can join from the middle. You can see that the upper part middle and the down part middle are matching, so I will start pinning from that middle. So when I pin the middle, I will pin the rest of the other places. So I'm gonna head to pin it. The next thing is to move over to my sewing machine and go and sew half an inch or round it. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is what it's looking like. At this point, you can also go ahead and open press your seam and iron it perfectly well. So you're basically going to start working on the back. So after unpinning my pattern for the back, I also went ahead to cut two pieces of fabric for the back. One will serve as our main working fabric, while the other will serve as our line. So I'm trying to measure what I have there as the dart leg, and after getting the value, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and go and run my dart, which I've done. You can see how neat my dart is looking. Yep, I also went ahead to iron press it down, and I did the same thing to the lining. So I'm basically going to use the lining, the right side of the lining facing the right side of our main working fabric, in order to turn the neck area of the line of our back, the zipper side and the side. You can see the place all my hands are running are the parts we are going to sew. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and I'm also going to go ahead and notch it and also trim out the excess only around the neck. For the back, only around the neck. So I'm trimming out a little bit of excess, we don't need it. So after trimming it, I'm going to basically turn it into the right side. So this is what it looks like when I turn it into the right side. So we are basically going to now go ahead and introduce the down part and start joining it over to the down part. So for the back, we are going to start at the zipper allowance. So the part we notch at the zipper for the down part, we are also going to match it at the part we notch at the zipper for the upper part. So the upper part zipper allowance, I'm going to match it to the down part zipper allowance, and I'm going to pin it down with my office pin while I pin the rest of the places. So I did the same thing to this other part. The upper part zipper part match the down part zipper part, and I pin it down, and I'm going to sew half an inch on that waist. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is the outcome. You can see how pretty is coming out already. So our corporate gown is coming out so pretty. So this is how I put my zip. After measuring where my zip is stop, I'm going to go ahead and mark it out like so. After marking it out, I'm going to go ahead and start marking the 1 inch allowance we added for the zip, while the upper part I mark 0.75 because we have already done the zipper allowance using our lining by 0.25. So after marking the down part 1, I mark the upper part 0.75. So from the hem part, I'm going to measure where I want my slit to be, my slit opening. I'm also going to indicate it. So after indicating it, I'm going to go ahead and also mark the rest of the places 1 inches that we added while transferring our patterns to fabric. So this 1 inches will help me to run a stitch from where my zip will stop to where my slit will start. You can see that where my zip will stop to where my slit will start. I'm going to go over and run a stitch there before I now insert my zip. So let's get straight into it. So I've gone ahead to insert my zip and also run a stitch to where I just mentioned earlier, and this is my slit, and that is it for the back. What we are basically going to do now is to go over and start joining it to our front, and this is what the back is looking like. So I'm introducing the front, and we are going to start joining the shoulder. So watch closely and see how I join my shoulder. The front are together, and I flip one of the back and I turn it over to the front and I pin it down. This will give it a seamless finishing. So I will arrange it very well and pin it all down, and I will move over to my sewing machine to go and sew it. So I've gone ahead to sew it. The next thing I do is to cut out the excess, and when I flip it to the right side, you can see that the front is seamless and the back is seamless, and all the roughness is in between the shoulder. So this is what is going to give you when you use this method. What I'm going to do now is to trim out the excess a little so that it will not be bulky on the shoulder. And after trimming this part, I'm basically going to also go ahead and trim the other part. after joining the shoulder, we are going to start working on the body circumference of our beautiful corporate gown. So I'm trying to impute my bust measurement. So this is how you impute your bust measurement. When you tape it down, you measure your bust divided by 2. The remaining allowance, you divide it into 2 equal halves, because you are going to share it into the 2 allowances. You also do the same thing on the waist. Your waist divided by 2. The remaining allowance, you share it into 2 equal halves. And also repeat the same thing on the hip area, and that is it. I'm trying to pin down the hip. So the first thing I did is to pin down the hip, waist, and the bust, and the knee as well, so that I will know what I'm marking. So after adding the hip, the next thing I do is use the hip allowance to trace it all to the down part. Though we added 1 inch allowance by the side, so I'm going to mark the 1 inch all over to the hem part of our beautiful gown. And after marking this part, I'm also going to repeat it to the other part. For the other side, the allowances that I divided into 2, I'm going to now add the remaining one at this side. You can see it's very easy when you mark the other part. So after marking, we are heading over to our sewing machine to go and run a stitch on these 2 lines, and come back and show you what is looking like. So I've gone ahead to sew the two lines, and this is the outcome. So let's turn it into the right part. So after turning, you can see that the upper part and the down part are joining by the side. So make sure that they join by the side, not one going up and the other one is going down. So the next thing you're going to do now is to measure our round armhole, so that we can go ahead and cut our sleeve. So this is how I cut my sleeve. I fold my fabric into 4 places so that I can cut the 2 sleeves together at once. So after folding it for the first time, I went ahead to fold the second one. After folding, I now mark out the length of my sleeve. After getting the length of my sleeve, the next thing you're going to mark is the length of your cap length, which should not be more than 4 inches. So from you choose a part that you want to be your wrist and your cap. So after choosing the part, which is this part, I went ahead to curve it out, and after curving it, I measure what I have and equal it to what I measured from our beautiful corporate gown. And on the wrist, I measured my wrist measurement and my elbow measurement, and I added allowances as well, and which I joined to get my long sleeve. So this is how I got it: your wrist measurement, your elbow measurement, your sleeve cap, and that is it for the sleeve. If you don't understand, I have a very detailed tutorial on how you can cut your sleeve. And after which, I'm going to hem the hem part of the sleeve and now sew it into our beautiful gown. And that is it for this beautiful corporate gown. So I've gone ahead to sew it. You can see how pretty it's looking already. And this is the armpit. So this is how we close our slits in a more professional way. I joined the 2 slits together. Before now, I've already iron pressed it in order to get the crease line. So I'm going to repeat what I just did there. I join it together, the slit, and I'm going to tam the part that is interjoining from the slit to the hem. I'm going to do a diagonal line like so. So after marking it out, I'm going to go ahead and trim it a little bit like so. After giving it that slant trimming, I'm going to now fold it the right side facing each other. In that slanted way, I'm going to go and run a stitch on it using that slanty effect we just cut out right now. And let me go and run a stitch and come back and show you the outcome. So after running a stitch, you are going to flip it to the right side, and this is what it's going to give you. You can see how beautiful this thing is looking. You can now go ahead and use your hemming gun or sew on top of it to finish it up. For the feather, I don't have the exact color, so I'm just trying to show you an illustration. When you get your feather, you start running it around your sleeve, your wrist part, and use your needle and thread to tack it down, and that is it. We have come to the end of this tutorial. If you find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and also subscribe to our channel. Subscribing is the most of it. And if you have watched to this point, thanks for watching. If you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome to our channel. My name is Faustina, and we post more of sewing tutorials. And that is it. After doing the first hand, I went ahead to do the second hand, and I think that this pink is matching this purple. What do you think?